I'm pro-life because when I was a child, my parents brought us up to be very concerned about the pro-life issue, teaching us about what abortion really meant and what euthanasia and infanticide and all of those things really meant. And I knew what abortion was. I knew what it did to people. I knew what it did to human beings. And I could see that. I moved to Florida beginning of January 2012 and came down here with the expectation of working for a year and transferring to a university. And my life was so ready to be vaulted. I was so ready to take the next step in what I was going to do for my purpose, my life. And shortly after I turned 21, and within weeks, I found myself in a very strange place because I was raped on March 24th, 2012. I didn't want to believe that something like that would happen to me. I didn't want to believe that people could really be that horrible and do something that would hurt another person in a way that is so beyond the physical, but emotional and mental and spiritual. 3 short weeks later, I went to a local crisis pregnancy center and discovered that I was pregnant. Ultimately, I needed to know if parenting or placing was not just what was going to be best for me and like what was going to be the most convenient for me, but like what was going to be best for this child, and how was I going to make sure that I was the best mother that I could be in whatever situation. So many times, so many places I ran into people, why don't you get an abortion? This is a child of rape. This is a child of rape. This is a child of rape. And so many people said that to me, and it made me want to scream, because it was like, this isn't a child of rape. This is a child of God. This is a child of the divine. This is cosmic. Like this is not something that happens on its own. This isn't something that happened because 2 people decided that they were going to take advantage of a woman. This happened, but what came from it was something that was from God. And there were so many times when I felt alone, and I felt like I was the only one protecting this child. I went back and forth for weeks, and I prayed, and then finally one day I was actually sitting at this lake, writing on a piece of paper pros and cons, adoption, parenting, like as though that was going to help, But God really came down on my heart that day, and He showed me that the best that I could do was to place him with a family that had a father and a mother and a stable life. I knew that I was making the right decision because I knew that it was a decision that God had chosen for me, and that this was the path that I was supposed to go on. But there were little moments, even in getting to know the adoptive parents, where it was like, wow, like this is really going to happen. Like I'm really going to give birth to a child, and then like I'm not going to see him for a little while. And we were planning an open adoption because just seems like the best option for everyone, so that my son could know me and I could know him, and I could still be close to them. And we just developed such an amazing and strong relationship. When it came close to the time of my due date, which was December 16th, I did start to feel sad and like I wanted to continue carrying this child. Like I started to think back and think like the first time that I felt him move, and I remember that at that time I cried at the feeling of his movement, because I just felt like this is something that should be shared between two people, and like here I am alone, you know. And as things went on and as I started to see God's hand in everything, like I loved and enjoyed that sensation more and more, because I just fell so in love with this child. 12, I went into labor, and everything was just a very calm, peaceful, natural experience. I chose in my mind how I wanted it to go, and it just manifested into happening. It was 4.5 hours of labor, mostly at home, and then I went to the hospital and delivered. And by far the most incredible experience of my entire life, those first moments of holding him, it's hard for me to put into words what I discovered, and truly what it is unconditional love. Like, I knew that I loved him, but holding him in my arms was just, nothing else mattered. I enjoyed every second of it. And when the day came to sign adoption papers, I mean, I recognized that pro-con list that I wrote at the lake went flying out the window, and like none of it mattered. The only thing that mattered, the only thing that really mattered is that God told me that this was what I was supposed to do. And the only thing more terrifying than doing that was not being on the path of God. I kissed him on the head, and I told him that I loved him, and I handed him to his adoptive mother, and we all just cried, and it was just so orchestrated by God. It just amazes me. You know, and I let them go. My heart just ached because I wanted to be closer to him, but he was getting farther away, and I could hear his cries down the hallway. And I walked up to the door that had just closed, and I just fell on the door, and all I could think to say was just like thank you, God, like thank you, like thank you, like thank you for like using me, thank you for allowing me to be your vessel, for giving him people who are going to love him for the rest of his life, not just me, but all these other people, you know, all these other people that he'll come into contact with because of his amazing adoptive parents. And I just thanked God. There were no other words that I could think of to come out of my mouth. All of a sudden I felt my body, and I was like, this is me again. Like, I'm still here. Like, you know, I made it. I did it. And if I can do this, then I can do anything. Like, this is, I just, you know, and I went home, and walking into my apartment was probably one of the hardest things, one of the hardest moments of the process, because I realized for the first time I was walking through the doors of my home without my son. People have asked me how I did this, because they're like, I don't think I could have done that. I mean, I don't think I could have made it through being raped and then being pregnant and then placing the child for, like, I don't think I could do that. And I just tell them, like, you know, that's okay, because like, God doesn't give us anything that we can't handle. I live now every day knowing that my son is in a good place, and that I never have to see my attackers again, and that I'm supposed to use my testimony for my career as a public speaker and as a writer, to reach other women who've experienced things like this, and even for those who haven't, just to know that there's a God who loves us and he can bring us through anything.